love the community
Right,
I was
right.
in. I love the community I was in. And I probably would have gone to the industry side or worked on a company side and not been on the actual skateboard side or just skateboard for fun. So there's a guy in the skateboard community, his name's Jim Thiebaud, and he's kind of the not so hidden secret in that community. He's an amazing guy, and he's sort of early on left professional skateboarding to run a company, Real Deluxe, a bunch of other companies. He's an amazing guy. And he told me, we've become friends recently, and he said he realized he wasn't going to be one of the big guys, but he knew he wanted to be in this community, so he found his place. And I think everyone in skateboarding looks to Jim as like the guy who he truly cares about the sport and about the people. So he learned to kind of just wrap his arms and his heart around the whole thing, and it just works. And so I do think everyone has a certain place in a community or in a team. I think that as you're describing this, I have to imagine that people are listening and thinking, like, wow, this team thing is awesome. Like, it's just amazing. I wish I had that, right? I'm fortunate to have that in my podcast. I've had that in my lab. Certainly in my podcast team, I always say, these guys go, I go. Like it's not just, it's the people that press buttons and run equipment, take photos. Like, they go, I go. Like, they go, it's over. And I'm fine with that. I actually love that because it's yes, it's about the podcast, and about the information and getting it out there, but it's as much about the team and working together, just like it was with skateboarding. So hopefully I'm better at podcasting than I was at skateboarding. I kept getting broke off, as the skateboarders say, in skateboarding too often. But I want to ask, like, in your family life, do you look at that as a team? Like, do you think, like, this is my team and they're different, and how can we synergize?
Yeah, and you've got to look at every team like that. What are the strengths and weaknesses of the team? And who's going to be good at what? And how do you put people in positions where they're going to be able to excel? I mean, what's his name? Thiebaud? Is that
Jim Thiebaud?
Jim Thiebaud.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had a mentor that was only saying, listen, you got to be a pro skater. This is your only opportunity. There's nothing else. And he didn't have the ability to take a step back and say, you know what, man? Like, I'm not going to be good enough, but I really love this industry. So luckily for him, he figured that out. And, you know, you talked about the superpower of being, like, loving your job. The one thing I claim to be a superpower is the ability to take a step back and detach, which I guess is going back to your meditation thing. But being able to take a step back and look at your life and say, man, I've been skateboarding longer than that guy and he's better than me. And I've been skateboarding longer than that other guy and he's better than me. I'm probably not going to be, this is probably not the right job for me. What could I do where I could use my skill set? And obviously he had some entrepreneurial spirit and was able to figure that out. So being able to be a part of a team, and it goes to what I was saying earlier about the mob, being able to be part of a team, part of the mob, part of the gang, but still have the ability to take a step back, detach from that, and assess what is the best way for this team to move forward. I mean, you could have this brilliant idea that from now on, you're going to make all of your podcasts about the molecular structure of whatever. And, you know, the rest of the team probably need to pull you aside and say, hey, man, like, I know you really care about that, and that's awesome, but everyone really wants to hear about this other stuff. So let's tie it in together. Let's expand the specific thing you want to talk about. So being able to take a step back, detach, and see the bigger picture, to me, is the true superpower of life. And it's a lot harder than it sounds. And, you know, this goes back to when you start talking about people that are going through struggles in life, right? And I've described this before as, you know, if I'm looking at you and you're in a bad state, right? You're depressed, you're sad, you're moping around, you're not getting anything done. And I'm looking at you from the outside and I'm thinking, for me, I see this storm cloud around your head, right? I see the storm cloud around your head and you're in there. And all you see, no matter what direction you look, is storm. All you see is darkness. I'm outside and I'm looking, I'm like, hey man, this guy's got a great education. He's healthy. He's got a good team around him. Like, he's got all these things going for him. But you, in that state, you literally cannot see anything but the darkness of the storm. And that's what's so scary about when people enter that mode is I can look at it from the outside and be like, Andrew, you just got to move like 4 feet forward and you're going to be through this thing. And yet you might hear me say that and you go, no, Jocko, I'm looking ahead. There's nothing but darkness. So helping people move forward, take action, and be able to get that perspective, detach and get outside themselves, get outside their own heads. You know, Tim Ferriss said, get out of your head, get into your body. That's one way to do it. Take action, go do things. But it's very scary. And I'm sure you've had this experience where you're talking to someone that you know, and they're bogged down in whatever problem it is, whatever stress they're under. And you're looking at them going, hey man, no, it's going to be okay. Like, you can clearly see that whatever is bothering them and dragging them out, you can clearly see, you know, a lot of times it's a relationship, right? The girl or the guy, they got dumped, and you go, hey man, that person was a disaster anyways. You're better off without him. And they cannot compute that. They are stuck there. Or maybe it's the school that they didn't get into or the job that they didn't get, and they get so wrapped up in that they can't get out of that storm. And it's such a helpless feeling to sit there and tell someone, hey, you just move a little bit towards me and you're gonna get out of this storm. And it's so much easier said than done. And that's why trying to engage with people and trying to give people that superpower of detachment where they can take a step back and say, you know what, you're right, man, that girl, she wasn't who I really thought she was. I should move on. Yes, but easier said than done. And that's one of the biggest challenges I think that we have as friends and in parents and teammates, is helping people learn to detach, learn to see the bigger picture, learn to see that the problem that you have, that your whole world is actually not that big of a deal. You know, I've written a bunch of kids' books, and one of the things that triggered me to write kids' books is realizing that, you know, one day my daughter came home. It's my oldest daughter, and she came home from school, and she's like, she says, I'm stupid. I said, what do you mean you're stupid? I'm stupid. I'm dumb. Why do you think that? No, whatever grade it is when you're supposed to know your times tables. I don't know my times tables. I said, well, how much have you studied? She kind of gave me the confused look. What do you mean studied? I said, have you studied yet? Have you made flashcards to learn them? And she didn't. She hadn't. She thought she should just know them. From, you know, the teacher went over what they are, now she should know them, like some other kids in the class did. And so I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, cool. We'll just, you know, we'll make some flashcards. And she made flashcards, and she learned her times tables in 45 minutes, and we were good. But what struck me was, to me, I was like, oh, no big deal. To her, it was her whole life. And then I got to see that with my other kids. You know, somebody said something to them in the recess yard, and I'm like, oh, screw that kid. They don't know don't worry about them. But when that's their whole world. And that, unfortunately, doesn't only apply to kids, it applies to adults as well. And they get this problem in their world that seems so insurmountable and so massive, because that little ecosystem that they're stuck in is their world, and they run into this problem in that, and it's disruptive in that world, and they don't know how to get out of it. You know, I did a podcast talking about these ecosystems that people get into, right? And there's all these ecosystems. You're in an ecosystem. We're both in a shared ecosystem of podcasting. And we could be like, oh my gosh, you know, Lex just came out with a new podcast and it's been the biggest success. And what can I do to catch up with Lex? And all of a sudden I could get really bothered. You could get really bothered. We could be bothered by that and think, man, I'm a failure. Meanwhile, there's people that don't listen to podcasts. There's people that don't even know what a podcast is. And yet it's our whole world, if we let it be. You're in the academic world. Hey, you're a professor at Stanford, which is a big deal in that world. I know people that don't give a rat's ass. They don't know where Stanford is.
I get that all the time.
They don't know where Stanford is. It's no big deal. In the SEAL teams, same thing. Somebody has a problem in the SEAL teams, and they think, this is the whole world, and I blew it. And now what are they going to do? When you're facing a significant problem in life, a relationship, a problem with a job, you got to remember that you're in one ecosystem. And if you step outside of that ecosystem, no one really cares. And you could go move into a whole totally different ecosystem and find happiness there. But at least utilize that to get out of that storm cloud that you're in. And you're going to find that there's plenty of light out there in the world. Move towards that, and it's going to be a much better situation.
in the spirit of authenticity.